we need to understand the reasons behind the involvement of America in Vietnam. Because one, America had no right to be directly involved in the place because one, even the USSR had no right. These were people that were fighting for their own general sense of rule, which is independence from any external influences. This is a country of people that have been oppressed for so long that they have been yearning for what we refer to as independence. And when it comes to the involvement of America, it starts off with that agreement of dividing Vietnam into, wherein they are going to divide it along that particular line that we refer to as the 17th parallel. Therefore says the Geneva Agreement of 1954 divided Vietnam into two: Communist North Vietnam and Capitalist South Vietnam. The agreement also stipulated that elections should be held in 1956 to unite the country. This is something that we've already dealt with. We know who Diem is going to cheat, right? And then it continues to say, Diem, the leader of South Vietnam, refused to have the elections fearing the communist victory. The USA supported Diem because of the domino theory. If Vietnam was taken over by communism, then all the neighboring countries would also become communist. This is how you best define the term that we refer to as domino theory in context. When they say define the term domino theory in context, it's wherein you are going to define it and say if Vietnam, because the domino theory is more so tied to if Vietnam before any other place are together. So you are therefore going to say if Vietnam was taken over by communism, then all neighboring countries would also become communist. And in this instance, it follows to say America was against the election taking place because they wanted to contain communism, which means there are two things that are at play here. It's this particular policy that we refer to as the policy of containment, which will therefore have this basis or this foundation that we now refer to as domino theory. So the umbrella of America's involvement is tied to the policy of the actual reason of America and its involvement is tied to that umbrella that we are talking often about, which is known as the policy of containment, wherein they are saying any country that might find itself being threatened or that might find itself being part of USSR without it willing to, America will come into play. This is wherein America finds itself involved to try and stop the involvement of USSR in Vietnam. And they are therefore going to be underpinned by a policy of containment, also following this theory wherein they fear that if one country falls to communism, it means the other countries are also going to fall to communism. Therefore continues to say, this angered the South Vietnamese, and they formed the Viet Cong to overthrow Diem. This is the main objective that we have been talking often about, tied to the formation of Viet Cong. Because we do know that in the South, it's wherein we are going to have the people that we refer to as, and in the North, we are going to have the Viet Minh. Are we together? The people from the South, the angered people from the South by this particular election that Ung Ngo Diem has apparently won. That did not happen, by the way. It continues to say this angered the South Vietnamese and they formed the Viet Cong, which means the angered South Vietnamese are the ones that are going to form this organization or this military basis or rebel that we refer to as the Viet Cong. Therefore says the Viet Cong was helped by, I repeat, if anyone dares lie to you and you believe them. The Viet Cong was helped by the Viet Minh, which then supplies down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which is something that we've also touched on to for now. And then it continues to say in 1955, the USA started to support South Vietnam by sending advisors and military supplies. What are these military supplies for? What are these particular advisors for? There is an army in the South, not the Viet Cong. There is an army that is mainly supporting and protecting the government of South Vietnam, which means that is protecting Ung Ngo Diem, which is people from South, right? Just as in the North, we have a North Vietnamese government that is protected by the organization that we refer to as the military aspect of protection in the North Vietnamese is done by the Viet Minh. In South, it is done by the ARVN. Are we together? And then when it comes to these two, the North has Viet Minh, the South will have ARVN. These are people that are supposed to fight each other when it comes to the North fighting against the South. But the initiality of the fight between the North and South does not start with the Viet Minh fighting against the ARVN. Instead, it starts from home with the people that we refer to as the Viet Cong challenging the leadership of Ngo Dinh Diem. Which means the people that will have to protect Ngo Dinh Diem is the ARVN. That Americans will actually realize that no man, the army of South Vietnam that is supposed to protect the person that we put in place in South Vietnam is not good, well experienced. It is not good in fighting against anyone, let alone people that are known as the Viet Cong. Because the methods that are used by Viet Cong in fighting, it's unlike the methods that they are used to fighting. Or fighting against rather. The America when it fights, I think you guys are familiar with the very fact that they have an army, right? Which has weapons. Their main method of fighting is direct conflict, which means you shoot, you hide, you shoot, you run away, you shoot, they find you, like it's direct conflict. But when it comes to the Viet Cong, we did say that the Viet Congs are peasants and farmers by day, and they are rebels by night. So when it comes to the methods, they are not going to use the conventional methods. That's why when we speak of strategies to start with, America will use conventional methods of fighting, wherein Viet Cong is going to use what we refer to as the guerrilla war. What do we mean by guerrilla warfare? What we mainly mean by guerrilla warfare is strategies that are not mainly that which we refer to as conventional. Also, when it comes to the Viet Cong, they will shoot or kill and hide. But when it comes to the conventional methods, it's wherein we know the battlefield. This is where we are fighting, this is where we shoot each other, and this is where we kill each other. That is the conventional way. We can point the battlefield, this is where we are fighting, and this is what people are using to hide. But in a guerrilla warfare, it's wherein the Viet Cong are going to use this place to their advantage. You do remember when we dealt with the background, we did say that, who asked me what is that question? It was you. What is necessary that we know about all these things, the geographical places and how it was in terms of, who asked me that question? No, it was Asa. That question of you asking what is necessary that we know in background, and I said yes. It is tied to the people that we are referring to as the Viet Cong because they are going to use this place to their advantage. The very fact that there's vegetation, there's jungles, there's hills, there's mountains, and there's this, the Viet Cong will use that to their advantage because one, they were born into that place. And I did make an example of the movie Apocalypse. Right? I did not. I didn't. When we spoke of the Apocalypse of that particular person whom they chased, and when I didn't.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
We're going to Vietnam right now. Apocalypse then. When we are talking about the vegetation, but we'll come to make it make sense. The Apocalypse is a prime example of someone who knows the territory, such that even when the enemy is chasing, he knows that territory better than the people that are chasing him, so he's going to use that territory to his advantage, which is what the Viet Cong are going to do. Americans who will eventually be directly fighting against the Viet Cong will not be familiar with the territory in which they are fighting, but the people that know the ins and outs of that territory will be. That's why we are talking about two strategies or methods of approach. The America is going to use the method in fighting that we refer to as conventional methods. Wherein, when we speak of Viet Cong, it is going to use methods that we refer to as guerrilla warfare. Are we together? We'll continue from then on. Otherwise, we have started.